What's up, YouTube? This is Saturos of the V-TamerdotEXE, and today we're gonna go over this Ulforce deck profile that I find to be very fun and very good. Like, it's a strong deck. It's not like a tier 3 or 2 deck. Like, it's definitely a 1.5 kind of deck. I've been playing it a lot, and I really enjoy the results with this deck. So I'm gonna share it with you guys because this is what I like. This is what's been winning a lot of games for me. And so we'll go over it. I do want to apologize in advance for not publishing this sooner, but Master Duel came out and that game has sort of just ruined my life. I've been doing nothing but playing Master Duel. So you may see a couple of Yu-Gi-Oh video uploads, but ultimately this is a Digimon channel and this is an Ulforce. The name of the channel is based off of the tamer that we play in this deck. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'll try to make this short and sweet. So for eggs, I'm playing 4 Demi Veemons and actually 5 Demi Veemons. This one gives you 1000 DP if you have 8 cards in hand. This one gives you 1000 if you unsuspend. Both of them are good. The 1000 DP is relevant in a lot of situations, but not much more to say about this. And the reason why I'm not playing any of the draw like Upamon is because the deck's already really consistent. You don't need the egg to give you more draw power. So that's eggs. And then on with the rookies. I play 12 and I play 12 and they all have the same name. So start off with the jamming Veemons. I play 4 of these because it has jamming. This format's really aggressive and there's no better aggressive card than this Veemon in the game right now. This guy, you can send him out and they start attacking immediately. Your opponent has to answer this. If they don't, usually they're losing securities, or sometimes it costs a lot to get rid of it with an option. But this card puts a lot of pressure, and the cool thing about it is I kind of see him as a pseudo defender, because when you attack with Veemon and it lives, your opponent is forced not to attack your security and attack this guy, so it buys you an extra turn. So 4 of those. 4 of the Warp Veemon. This card's insane with this deck. It's part of the reason why it's so consistent now. And for both effects, right? I'll start with the main effect. If you have, if your opponent has level 6 Digimon on board or higher, you can Warp Digivolve into Ulforce for 4 memory. And obviously, since we're playing blue, it's so easy to do that with Timer Sparks or whatever. But the inherited effect is also insane. Because early game, you could just start swinging with your champions, like a Gorillamon or a Veedramon. And the effect states, if you have 7 or less cards in your hand, you draw 1. This effect is not once per turn. So if you attack with, Secret Veedramon, or if you attack with the Gorillamon, you draw a card, right? You Digivolve for 1. You can attack security right away with Gorillamon. You don't mind if he dies because it only costs you 1. And at 6k, a lot of times they'll survive security checks in the current format. And, if he lives, great. They have to answer it. And so, but if you Digivolve into the Secret Veedramon, that lets you unsuspend if you have a blue tamer, and you attack twice, you'll draw 2 cards with this card. So pretty nutty. And the warp effect lets you, make huge comebacks sometimes. But another reason why this deck's so consistent is because we're playing the memory Veemons. And I'm not playing all Veemons because I like Veemon that much. But they all have a specific function. And this one's really insane in this format because the extra memory you get with this card lets you extend your plays considerably. It lets Ulforce get an additional check. It lets you play like Ice Wall if you attack with the Secret Veedramon, or if you Digivolve into an Arrow Veedramon that lets you unsuspend. The memory you get from this card that makes it so that you're less reliant on having a memory tamer or a memory booster. This card's nuts, and I didn't think it was as really good at first, but this card's the reason why you can get an additional check-in, and I'll kind of go over it later. But 12 Veemons, nothing more, nothing less. And actually, the reason why I want to play 12 Veemons is because we play a card that lets you search that card out consistently. But I'll get to that later. On with the champions, 2 Gorillamons. 1 costs Digivolve, so obviously it lets you get into Ulforce faster. But the main function of this card is actually to start attacking right away. So because the format's very aggressive, it's not a bad idea to Digivolve for 1. Your opponent has 1 memory, they do a play, and then you, on your turn, when it passes back to you, you just send out the Gorillamon and you just attack. Because if you have the Warp Veemon, you'll draw a card for it. So For one memory, you essentially digivolve, so you draw a card, and then you attack, draw another card, and it's pretty good. You're drawing two cards with the guy who has 6,000 DP, and if he lives, your opponent answers it, and if he doesn't, then it didn't cost you that much. So two Gorillamons, and then we play three blockers. They do just that. They just block, one cost. And since I kind of consider playing the third Gorillamon and cutting one blocker, because your Veemon sort of act like a pseudo blocker, but it's always good to have. So three Sealamons, and then obviously this is a Veedramon deck, so we're playing three of these Veedramons, 4 cost drop. At 5k DP is pretty good, so if you don't open up a rookie, it's never a bad idea to just hard cast this. And the win attacking effect says if you have 8 or more cards in your hand, you can return a level 3 rookie on your opponent's side of the field to their hand. The reason why this is relevant is because this is your answer to the memory blockers in like Terriermon, Chumon, Madoki Betamon, those kind of cards. If you're playing against those colors, you sort of have to anticipate your opponent having them at some point, and so that you don't get sort of memory blocked, especially with the Veemon, with the Ulforce, you rely on this guy. So that's his main function, is to answer those cards. And last but not least, we're playing not one, but two Secret Veedramon, one of each rarity, because I actually like this one more, but I also like this one a lot. But that's not the point here. Effect is really good, especially in this format. Again, the format's very aggressive. A lot of people are attacking like Gobblebond, Agumon. All those decks are attacking with champions, and this is one of the best champions in the meta right now, in my opinion. If you Digivolve over this Veemon, and you have a Tamer, when you attack, you unsuspend, you'll gain a memory, so that's really good. And if you have the Warp Veemon, if you attack twice, as I mentioned before, you'll draw 2 cards, right? Because this effect is not once per turn. So, really good card. And the inherited effect gives you 1,000 DP if you have a Tamer in play, or blue Tamer in play. So, that effect is relevant in certain matchups where your opponent is playing like Digimon that have 13,000 DP or more. And again, it's because I guess it'll make more sense once you see once I get to the end of the deck list. But very good card. I'll play at 2. Sometimes I kind of wish I play at 3, but play him at 3, still undecided. But I do like this card a lot right now in this format. And obviously, it's good early game because you can draw or gain memory with the Veemons, and it's good late game. Once your Ulforce clears the stack, then you just Digivolve into one of these, and if they don't have 2 blockers out of the board, then that's just pretty much game. Onto the ultimate. We're playing 4 of these Arrow Veedramons, and then 3 of these Arrow Veedramons. We're playing 7. So this one, we'll talk about this one first, right? This one has jamming. Inherently just has jamming, and gives the inherited effect. If you have 8 or more cards in your hand, your Digimon gains security +1. And this is actually really busted for Ulforce. It's actually a huge game changer in the strategy, in the overall deck concept, right? Because Ulforce usually needed 4 or 5 Tamers to ult-TK your opponent. You don't need that anymore. You should need to have this card and Ulforce to have a respectable DP level where you could just clear securities very quickly. This card actually wins me a lot of games because of that inherited effect. It just puts a lot of pressure on your opponent. So, but that's not to say that these cards are any weaker. The ratios here for me will be contingent on what's popular in the format. This one has an inherited effect, which is the inherited effect, which is when you attack with a Digimon, and if it gets unsuspended, it gets jamming. So if you play Ulforce, you already know how this combo works. But Ulforce attacks, you unsuspend it, and you give it jamming right away. Jamming is more relevant if you're playing against big Digimon decks like Megazoo. But because again, everything is sort of more decks are hyper aggressive now, a lot of Digimon and security aren't that strong. Not many decks are playing Omnimons right now. When Omnimon's popular, I'll play 4 of these. If Omnimon's not popular, it's better to get the aggression from this card. Get the aggression from this card, and each attack getting 2 checks is just insane. And this card's main effect, which is when you Digivolve over a Digimon, if you have a blue Tamer, you can unsuspend your Digimon. It's really good because if let's say you just attack with this Secret Veedramon, you attack twice, and or even let's say you have this Veemon, for example, and you attack with the Gorillamon, right? Attack. A lot of times it'll live in this current format, and then you digivolve into this EX1, it will just cost you 2, and it will unsuspend itself, and you're getting that much closer to your Mega. And if you could keep abusing this Veemon, it will put you that much ahead in the matchup. So 4 and 3, you can change it as you like, but I found this ratio to kind of be very conducive in helping me get like really fast aggression against my opponent. So that's ultimate. On with the Megas, we already know who this deck is all about. This guy, and we're playing 4 of them. You already know what it does, but if you don't, I'll remind you. When Ulforce is suspended, right? When a blue tamer suspends, it'll unsuspend. The first time that happens, you gain a memory. And then you get a bunch of other effects depending on which, inheritance you have on this guy. But the memory now is really insane if you have this Veemon, because let's say you start off with 3 memory, right? You have a memory booster, or you have a Davis. You digivolve into this card, right? It attacks. You unsuspend it somehow, you'll gain 2 memory. And that 2 memory is it's enough for you to play an additional tie, the V-Tamer, which is what this channel is based on. You can play another tie and get another check-in, another 2 checks in if you're playing this card. So this Veemon does help the deck a lot. It's really cool. It's very sick in what it can do. And now, because there's so many cards that help you find pieces. Like before, I would lose games because I never found this card, right? Now, your deck can function without it, but if you do see it, then it's insane. And the longer the game goes, the nastier this card gets, because as you're able to play more Tamers, the more like each successive Ulforce that comes after the one that dies before it just hits even harder because you'll have more Tamers in play. So really good card, obviously. And another cool thing about this deck is now we can play his brother, and which is the other Ulforce. And this effect is pretty good too. It's essentially I consider bumping it to 3, but I think most of the time you still want to see this card. But if you see this Ulforce, it's not bad either. Effect is if when Digivolving, you can return one of your opponent's level 4 lower Digimon to their hand. So that's not bad. Get rid of some blockers. And then the second effect, obviously, is when you attack, if you have 8 or more cards in hand, you can suspend it. And obviously, I only could do that once. But if you have this EX1 and you have like an attack boost, this guy's attacking security at +1. It could attack twice at usually 13,000 DP if you have the conditions for it. So most of the time, it's going to live security checks outside of options. So it's not bad. And, less reliant on Tamers. But this is the one you want to see. But if you see this one, you're not in a bad spot too. Just digivolve it over this guy. Get the +1 security checks. And if not, if you get this one early and you have this Veemon, you could, each time you attack, you just gain a memory. And most of the time you'll get, you'll survive security checks. So he's a very good card. I may bump it up to 3 later, but for now, we play 2 of them. Oh, the Tamers, 2 Davids for consistency and for the memory, and 2 Renas. Rena's a card that I put back into this deck because this card helps a lot with what I'm trying to do. Okay, first before BT or before the EX set, I was playing the Gabumon that gives you 1,000 DP if you have 8 or more cards in hand, the one that comes in the starter deck. And I was playing Dracomon, which is on play, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add any Dramon card, which is most of the cards in this deck, and add it to your hand. Arena does both of those effects, but in 1 card. So I like that. It's a tamer, so it's hard for them to get rid of it. And it lets your Ulforce, most of the time, if you have like the egg and this Rena, you can swing over at 13,000 DP. And again, in most matchups in the current meta, that's all you need. You just need to swing at 13,000, right? The only time you need to buff it up even higher is if you're playing against like Ancient Choimon or any other deck that has like 1,300 DP Digimon or more, like in higher ratios. And when that happens, you want to play this Veedramon to get that inherited effect. But most of the time, Ulforce will survive the security check. And you know the combo: attack with Ulforce, suspend Rena when attacking because she gives 1,000 DP to one of your blue Digimon on attacking as well. Unsuspend, get 2 checks if you have this card. And then if he lives, attack 2 more checks. And if you have any other tamer, then you could just kind of, you know the deal. You just keep attacking attack, suspend, tamer, unsuspend, attack, suspend, tamer, unsuspend, and you just keep looping this until you win, right? And that's Ulforce in a nutshell. But Arena is really cool for that. Again, it pretty much has a function of 2 rookies in 1 card, and so that's what I'm definitely playing to. And then we're playing 4 of these bad boys. I had them down to 3, but ever since this Veemon came out, I realized that it's so easy to get an additional attack in using this card, and I do it a lot. It's not something that just comes up every now and then. It comes up a lot. So this card is definitely a huge game changer with the whole deck, because this lets Ulforce get an additional security check, and a lot of times it's just enough to get game. Because if you're attacking early on with some of the weaker guys, then by the time your Ulforce comes out, a lot of times you just need 1 or 2 memory or suspendable tamers to just attack for game, and like no amount of blockers can sort of stop this guy's onslaught. So, and I will say, part of the reason why I also held off on this deck list is because I wanted to make sure that, like, I don't want to give you guys bogus deck lists, right? If I'm presenting it, it's because it works, and this deck has been pretty successful for me. And I feel like the only time I've lost like horribly is when my opponent has really good security. But if they don't have great security, I've been getting a lot of good wins with this deck. So take what you want with that information, but this deck is really solid, and I'm playing against good decks too, right? So I'm playing against Jesmon, Bond of Friendship, Security Control. Again, even Security Control, it can win, and it wins a lot unless all the securities is like every single one is busted and knocks this guy out. But overall, this is a Tamer lineup, pretty good. Now I'll jump into the options, and obviously the channel is based off of this guy, so why would I not play him at 4? But on with the options: 2 Hammer Sparks and triple Ice Wall. Hammer Spark extends your plays. If you have 3 memories starting, you can use Hammer Spark to use the warp Veemon to warp Digimon to Ulforce and start checking security right away. So that's why you use it. Inherited effect's really good. I don't gotta really explain that. Hammer Spark, and it's good. Ice Wall's also very good. It's gonna get limited, and when it does get limited, in fact, instead of telling you what I would play, what would you play when this goes to 1? Because this card's really good, obviously because it's Ice Wall, but in this deck, a lot of times you just need to buy 1 turn to get your setup and go for game. So sometimes you're attacking, this Veedramon attacks, it survives. You just play Ice Wall, make it hard for your opponent to attack over your Digimon and also progress the game state. So it's really strong for that. And obviously the security effect is good too. But the main function is to buy yourself 1 turn, because all you need a lot of times is just 1 turn for this guy to go off and just clear the whole stack. So obviously a busted card. Rightfully limited on the list come February or whenever. But until it goes to 1, we're gonna play 3. Same card. And the last 2 cards we're playing are 2 blue memory boosts for consistency. With the blue memory boost, obviously what you know what it does. Look at the top 4 of your stack, add a blue card, add it to your hand. But with the blue memory boost, with the ties and the Davis and the draw that you get from the draw Veemon, your deck's really consistent. All you need is for 1 of them to go off, and then you'll just kind of fix the rest of your hand. So I kind of like that about this deck a lot. And so it's definitely, you could change ratios. You can play like the draw Veemon, but obviously, like, because of this engine, you don't need the draw from the eggs, and you can invest in more in attack boost. But another thing to note about this card is there's a Veedramon there in the back if you look at it closely. So this card was meant for this dude, for all these cards, right? So it's a good card. A lot of times you just need it to go to 3 or even 4 to warp Digivolve into the Ulforce using the warp Veemon. So, but that's it. That's all I got for now. Again, I would try to post more of these. In fact, I'll try to get some gameplay whenever I can with this deck. But I've been using it a lot. When I'm not playing Master Duel, I'm playing this deck. And that's it. That's what my life has come down to right now. So let me know what you think. If you like the content, like and subscribe. I hope this video is not too long. I try my best, but there's just some things I want to talk about. But I'm done talking. Like and subscribe. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. This is a V-TamerdotEXE. It's a churros. I'll talk to you all later. Take care.